We're going to dive deep into the very final chapter, the last lesson.
That's right, from that really powerful book, 30 Lessons for Living.
Exactly. And you've brought us some incredible excerpts from this chapter. It's basically the author wrapping up his huge 5-year project, interviewing America's elders.
It really was massive.
So our mission today really is to unpack his final thoughts.
Yeah.
How he felt finishing this thing.
Yeah.
And share some of the last anecdotes he included. Some are funny, some are really moving. And crucially, understand why he thinks it's so important, like urgently important, to listen to this generation.
While we still can. That's the key point.
Right, while we still have that irreplaceable chance. So get ready, because there were some profound insights, but also some surprisingly funny bits in here.
It's quite something, isn't it, reaching the end of a project like that?
Right.
Especially one involving, such deep connections with over 1,000 people.
1,000 people?
You can really sense in these final thoughts, he's not just summarizing the findings. He's thinking about how the whole experience actually changed him.
Yeah, you feel that personally.
He talks about how quickly those 5 years just seemed to vanish.
That "where did 5 years go?" line,
Yeah.
It hits home.
It really does. And it kind of perfectly echoes what so many of the elders themselves said about how fast their own lives went.
It's like the lesson reflecting back on the process itself. And he has this hope, right, that if it changed him, then maybe engaging with these lessons, through the book or like we're doing now, will have a similar impact on you, the listener.
It's a really hopeful note to end on, almost a personal plea beyond just the research.
Yeah, like please let this mean something.
And think about the sheer audacity of the project itself, just stepping into people's lives, often for just an hour or two.
Right, briefly.
And asking these incredibly fundamental, deeply existential questions. The weight of that.
It's intense.
Yeah.
You're sitting with a near stranger asking about the most important lessons they've learned over, 80, 90, even 100 years.
Exactly. Not just chit-chat.
No. He was asking about, their major values, the principles they lived by, their feelings about dying, which, let's be honest, most people avoid talking about.
Absolutely. And then practical stuff too, right? Marriage, work, kids, health, spiritual life.
The big stuff, the really big stuff.
And, over 1,000 older Americans actually took up that challenge. They opened their minds, their hearts.
To a researcher.
Yeah.
With a tape recorder.
Yeah. It's a huge act of trust, really, offering up all this hard-won wisdom, maybe to help younger people they'll never even meet.
And they really gave him everything in return. The author shares these moments. Some are hilarious, genuinely laugh out loud.
Okay, let's hear some of those first. Laughter is good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So there's this one person who said they were poor, shy, and backward until they got married.
Uh-huh.
And their spouse basically had to teach them the finer things in life.
Yeah.
Like not picking your nose.
Oh, my goodness. Seriously.
Seriously. And changing underwear daily, bathing, brushing teeth, basic stuff.
Wow.
And the advice that came out of it, marry someone who will diplomatically take you in hand and educate you.
Okay, that's specific. And hilarious. Practical, though.
So practical. And then there's the really blunt advice like, stay out of trouble and steer clear of other people's wives.
Can't argue with that one. Straight to the point.
Or don't wear a miniskirt when you're 68.
Okay, noted. It's that unvarnished honesty, isn't it? Maybe a bit of dark humor sometimes.
Totally. It cuts through all the jargon you sometimes hear. It's just lived experience.
Grounded, yeah. Things they actually saw or lived through. Wisdom often just looks like common sense, but maybe, aged well.
But then, like you said, there are the other moments. The ones that just hit you. That story of the woman who lost her daughter. It's incredibly moving.
Yeah, the author describes her talking about just thinking about her daughter, going over memories.
Remembering her at 5 or 10, imagining her now.
And how she talks to her, in your head a little bit.
Oh, that image.
Sitting on her porch, letting her mind drift, thinking of funny things they shared, even laughing out loud.
Even if other people might think she'd gone around the bend.
Right. It's such a raw, honest look at grief, but also enduring love, keeping that connection.
And how she talks about learning to live without her. It's not this neat process. It's just
getting up,
going through the day, and then more and more and more days without her. That phrasing, it just captures the relentlessness of loss.
It really does. It's this quiet resilience.
Yeah.
And that resilience comes through in other ways, too. The author mentions some unexpected moments he'll miss. Surprises.
Like what?
Well, this apparently very elegant, cultured woman in her 90s,
Okay.
when asked about sexual fulfillment later in life, she just matter-of-factly said, find yourself a younger man and pay for him.
No way! He actually put that in.
Yep. And added, yes, that really happened.
Wow. Okay. That's unexpected.
Definitely breaks the stereotype.
Hmm.
And then there was a guy, a septuagenarian, who asked mid-interview if he could smoke some pot.
Huh. Did the author say yes?
He noted it couldn't be used, so probably not during the interview. But it shows these were real complex people, not just, wise old sages.
They lived full lives, clearly,
Yeah.
with unexpected sides.
Exactly. And he also mentioned seeing that comfortable love and sometimes even the passion between couples married 50, 60 years.
Ah, yeah. After hearing about all the challenges, seeing the ones who made it work for that long.
It must have been pretty powerful, hopeful.
Definitely. Another thing he highlights is that sort of time machine feeling he got.
Oh, right. Connecting to the past through people.
Yeah, like sitting with someone born in, say, 1908,
Wow.
who heard about the Civil War directly from her grandfather.
That's incredible. That direct line back. It makes history feel so much more personal, doesn't it?
Totally. Not just dates in a book. You're hearing about the feeling of seeing WWI parades or the hardship of the Depression from someone who was there or knew someone who was.
It gives it texture, real immediacy.
And he loved the diversity of the people he talked to. They weren't all from one place.
No, all over the U.S., Texas, California, New York. Immigrants too, right?
Yeah, people escaping turmoil, persecution, bringing completely different perspectives.
And he really noticed their voices, their accents. He felt they were less homogenized than younger people's accents today.
He describes them so vividly. The Texas drawl turning yes into yay yes.
Or government into gummin.
And the New York clip sounds, mudas and fadas.
And he even mentions the blend of Indian and Caribbean accents, wit for with, that for that.
It shows how much he valued the individual.
Yeah.
The sound of their history and their voice.
It's more than just an accent. It's part of their story.
So as this huge project ends, he's left with all this wisdom. But what he says he'll miss most, it's not just the stories.
It's the people themselves, the experts.
Yeah. He mentions their average age, around 78, which is close to the average U.S. life expectancy.
And the tough part, some he interviewed had already passed away since he started.
That's sobering.
And even more so, his estimate that in just 10 years, fewer than a quarter of them might still be alive.
Wow. That really hits you. That statistic just drives home the main point of this whole final chapter, doesn't it?
Absolutely. This resource, it's finite. It's vanishing.
His feeling that the world will be less interesting without them? It's not just being sentimental.
No, it's acknowledging a real loss, a loss of a unique perspective shaped by history.
Which leads right into the urgency he talks about. While they're still here.
We have to listen. We just have to.
He argues it benefits everyone, right? For the elders, it's validating. They feel heard.
Yeah, like their hard-earned wisdom, often gained through real struggle, might actually help someone else.
There's that great quote he included.
Oh, the one about pontificating?
Yes. It is very nice of you to ask my opinion about life, since my wife and children would rather I pontificate elsewhere.
It's funny, but it hints at something real, doesn't it? That desire to share, and maybe not always feeling asked by their own families.
Exactly. But he's really clear. While it's good for them, we're the ones with the most to gain.
We get to tap into all that lived experience, decades of it.
And get perspectives that might challenge, what everyone thinks is common sense today. Question our assumptions.
And it's not just philosophical stuff. He emphasizes their experiential knowledge.
Meaning?
Knowledge that comes from being tested, really tested, through unbelievably hard times.
Like the Depression, World War II, huge social changes, personal losses, things many of us haven't faced on that scale.
That's why he calls them experts. They have the data points from living it. He shares that personal example, right? Asking his 93-year-old retired colleague for advice.
Yeah, about his own career stuff. He expected maybe some perspective, some history.
But he got that and at least 4 concrete ideas for changes to be made.
Real, practical, actionable advice from someone who's seen it all.
That story says so much.
It really does. But here's the surprising thing he found. Despite the obvious value of their wisdom.
Most of the elders were pessimistic.
Right, pessimistic about whether the book, their advice, would actually, reach younger people or make a difference.
And it wasn't because they doubted their advice. They believed in it.
No, it was because they felt... what? irrelevant.
Yeah, that younger generations see them as irrelevant, their views as archaic, even though they wanted to be mentors.
They felt like they were seen as out of touch.
And the author just found that astonishing. He pushes back hard.
With those great rhetorical questions like, how could advice from someone who survived the Depression on living well with less not be relevant now?
Exactly. Or coping with fear and crisis from the WWII generation. How is that not relevant?
Or staying married, raising kids through massive change. It seems more relevant than ever.
It really highlights this massive disconnect. The very experiences that make them so valuable are somehow seen as making them obsolete.
So if the wisdom's there and they're willing to share, why don't we listen more? He points to some reasons.
One is just practical, right? Physical separation. Fewer families living together multi-generationally.
Kids move away. It's harder to have those casual, everyday conversations.
True, but he thinks a bigger thing is cultural, this rigid stratification by age.
Meaning we stick to our own age group.
Pretty much. He cites studies most friends are within like 5 or 10 years of your own age.
And that statistic.
Yeah.
You're more likely to have a friend of another race than someone 20 years older or younger.
Yeah. That one's startling, isn't it? It shows how much we silo ourselves off by age. Missing out on so much.
We've built these generational walls, so how do we fix it? What's the first step?
According to the author, it's almost ridiculously simple.
Just talk.
Just talk. Talk to each other, across the generations. It starts with individuals.
He really pushes for taking the kinds of questions he asks.
The deep ones, yeah.
And asking them of the older people you know.
Mm-hmm.
Your family, neighbors, colleagues.
Anyone older in your life. You could even use the list from the book, or just bring up lessons we're talking about now. Ask them if they agree, disagree, why.
Things like, what makes marriage work? How did you handle discipline? Regrets. Is life short? How do you choose happiness? Stop worrying.
Universal stuff. Stuff everyone grapples with.
He says his dream is seeing these conversations happen around dinner tables across America.
Going beyond the surface chat, really tapping into that wisdom.
And he saw it happen in his own family. His daughter and son-in-law interviewed the son-in-law's 94-year-old Aunt Jo.
Using his questions.
Yep, spent an hour asking about her life, work, love, loss, meaning.
And his son-in-law had known her for 35 years.
Right. But he said this hour was extraordinarily meaningful, way deeper than just hearing stories before.
Because they were asking for her advice, asking her to reflect on her life as lessons.
Exactly. That was the key difference. It changes the whole interaction.
It shifts it from just listening to actively seeking guidance.
Which leads to his final, really powerful idea about the legacy of overlapping lives.
That even when people pass, the knowledge doesn't have to die with them.
If we pass it on. It brings us back to that time machine thing, that 102-year-old.
Born 1908, heard about the Civil War from her grandpa.
Born around 1850. And his grandpa, or maybe someone he knew as a kid.
Could have remembered the Revolutionary War.
Mind-blowing. It shows how history and life experience used to be linked generation to generation.
Through interlocking lives, as he puts it. Passed along, kept alive in the telling.
And the biggest takeaway, the final message from this whole chapter, this whole deep dive maybe,
is that this wisdom, this living history, it's not somewhere else. It's not locked away.
It exists in people you know right here, right now.
And as he says, it's yours for the asking.
Wow. So look at the last lesson. It shows us this huge, valuable, but yeah, rapidly vanishing resource, elder wisdom.
Hidden in plain sight, often, because of these age barriers we've built.
But the solution he offers is so simple. Just talk. Just ask. Ask for their advice.
It makes you stop and think, really. This incredible knowledge isn't just in a book. It could be in your own family, your own community.
Absolutely. Which leaves us, and leaves you, with that provocative thought. What connections, what lessons, what surprising insights could you find?
Just by starting a conversation with an older person you know, and really listening.
Not just to the stories, but listening for the advice for you. Who are the experts waiting for you to ask?
It's a powerful call to action, isn't it? Disguised as a reflection.
It really is.
Now,
and on that thought, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us.